Have you ever wondered how the video games your children, students, or even your spouse love to play have come to what they are today? Video game consoles have a fairly modern yet complex history. Today I'm going to inform you about the history of home video game consoles. I have the advantage of knowing you all fairly well and am aware of your limited experience with video games. I am also aware of how much frustration they cause you with your students, your own children, and maybe your spouses. My aim is just to use a few examples to show how these game consoles have developed over the last 50 years or so. I have completed research about the history of game console development. I have written a couple of high school and college papers on different aspects of gaming, and I have a personal experience with several different consoles over the past 10 years. Today I will cover about the first game consoles, enhanced graphic consoles, and internet-capable consoles. There are many consoles in each generation that won't be included, but I've tried to pick out the best examples within each generation to give you a general idea of their history. I would like to begin by discussing the first game consoles. Based on my familiarity with you, I am certain you've heard of a system called Pong. It was basically hitting a ball back and forth on the screen against an opponent, a simple video version of ping pong. But do you know the history of Pong? Pong was intended to be marketed to consumers. In 1972, the Atari company assigned the project to Alan Acorn as a training exercise. After seeing the potential of the program, Atari decided to market it as a game. Initially, they wanted it to be on a computer, but it was decided to make it a TV console. In a 2009 article by Henry Lowood, he stated, a product inspired by technology, but practically realized by TV technology, people soon became bored with Pong. They thought it was simple, boring, repetitive. And in a 2018 article by Thomas Wolfe, he stated, video games have gone through a number of critical economic and technological evolutions. In the late 1970s and into the 1980s, video game consoles began to develop as we know them today. In 1977, Atari released the Atari 2600. This system came with wired joysticks and paddles and brought arcade games into people's homes. You no longer had to go somewhere and put a coin in the machine to play Pac-Man. Now that we've discussed the very beginning of video game console development, we will now talk about some enhanced graphic consoles and their features. In 1983, Famicom released a Nintendo Entertainment System, better known as the NES. It was the king of consoles in the mid to late 1980s, marketed as a home entertainment center, and one of its most popular games was Super Mario Brothers. My own mom told me about spending hours and hours trying to conquer all of the levels only to find Mario jumping up and down a flagpole. Such a letdown. Soon a console war began to compete for this new consumer group who spent millions on home game consoles. Sega released several models in the 1980s and 90s. The most popular was the Sega Genesis. It had over 900 plus game titles, and the Sega CD included recorded videos that were the first realistic characters in a game. In 1991, the Sega CD was released and incorporated pre-recorded videos that played in response to a loss or victory. Now that we've discussed video game consoles of the past, we will now talk about more modern game consoles of connecting through the internet. The three leading networks for console gaming on the internet are PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and Nintendo Network. Playing games moved from the idea of having two or more people connected by wired or wireless controllers to a single console. These consoles made it possible to play with people in other locations, and its capability grew as internet speeds grew. As a result of these networks, the advent of computer-based gaming, the number of people playing video games on any format may surprise you. In a 2019 study, Stony Brook University's Christian Nevitre found that 60% of Americans play video games, 70% are 18 and older, and the average age of a player is 34 years old. In a 2021 article, Gamer CEO Rahid Shaheen stated more than 42% of Americans are gamers, and 4 out of 5 US households have a console. Now I would like to close with the following statements. We specifically looked at the first game consoles, enhanced graphic consoles, and internet-capable consoles. I hope that I've successfully informed you about a brief history of video game consoles, and have given you a general idea of how these consoles have evolved. Of course, for the sake of time, I have not included all systems or even all categories of gaming consoles, but have tried to give you enough information so that you understand how these consoles have changed over time. The evolution of gaming is far from over. It will be interesting and exciting, at least for me, to see how much further it progresses and how the technology not even thought of yet continues to change how people use gaming consoles.